What if extinction wasn't permanent? For centuries, the vanishing of a species was seen as absolute, an irreversible loss written in the history of nature. The dodo, the woolly mammoth, the Tasmanian tiger, creatures that once roamed the earth, now gone forever, their absence a stark reminder of nature's finality. But today, a new question is emerging. What if science could rewrite that final chapter? What if we could bring the lost back to life? This is no longer just the realm of mythology or science fiction. In laboratories across the world, researchers are working to revive species that disappeared long ago. Using cutting-edge genetic engineering, scientists are piecing together the DNA of extinct animals, editing living cells, and envisioning a future where humanity might wield the power to undo nature's mistakes, or perhaps its natural course. The idea of de-extinction has captured the imagination of scientists and the public alike. Some see it as a way to restore ecosystems damaged by human activity. Others warn of the unintended consequences of species brought back into a world that has moved on without them. Yet, the excitement persists. In remote labs, frozen cells from long-dead creatures are being thawed, their genetic codes carefully reconstructed. A once-dead species could soon have a second chance. But should it? The Woolly Mammoth project is perhaps the most famous. Scientists at the forefront of genetic research are using CRISPR technology to edit elephant DNA, inserting mammoth traits to create a hybrid capable of surviving in Arctic tundras. Some say this is an act of redemption, a chance to restore balance after centuries of destruction. Others call it playing God. Can we ever truly control nature? Or is our reach exceeding our grasp? If we now have the tools to bring species back, how do they actually work? For most of history, extinction was final, a biological certainty. But today, science is challenging that assumption. With breakthroughs in genetics, cloning, and synthetic biology, researchers are exploring ways to resurrect lost species. The process is complex, filled with ethical and technical hurdles. Yet the question remains, if we can bring them back, how do we do it? At the heart of de-extinction lies the ability to recover and manipulate DNA. Every living organism carries a genetic blueprint, a code, that defines its form, function, and survival. But when a species disappears, so does its intact genetic material. Over time, DNA fragments degrade, making it nearly impossible to recreate a perfect copy of an extinct species. However, scientists have found a workaround by piecing together ancient DNA and combining it with that of a close living relative. They can attempt to resurrect something similar. One of the earliest attempts at de-extinction involved the Pyrenean ibex, a wild goat declared extinct in the year 2000. Using cloning techniques, scientists implanted the genetic material of the last known ibex into a domestic goat. In 2003, the species returned, if only briefly. The cloned ibex was born alive, but died within minutes due to lung complications. It was a scientific milestone, yet a sobering reminder that reviving a species is far more complicated than it seems. Today, the most ambitious project focuses on the woolly mammoth. Scientists are using CRISPR gene editing technology to insert mammoth DNA sequences into the genome of modern Asian elephants. The goal? To create a hybrid species capable of thriving in the Arctic, where it could help restore lost ecosystems. But the reality is more complicated. The animal that emerges won't be an exact replica of the mammoth. It will be something new, a synthetic hybrid shaped by human hands. If successful, would it truly be a mammoth, or simply an elephant modified to look like one? Another approach involves synthetic biology, the ability to write entire genomes from scratch. Advances in this field raise the possibility of building extinct species cell by cell, creating organisms that mimic the past without direct lineage. Theoretically, this could allow for the revival of creatures whose DNA is too degraded to recover. But how far should we go? Should science resurrect species that vanished millions of years ago? Could we one day see the return of Neanderthals, or even dinosaurs, even if we can bring back lost species? Should we? What happens when the pursuit of science collides with the weight of ethical responsibility, bringing a species back from extinction? But as science moves closer to achieving it, a deeper question emerges, not whether we can, but whether we should. What are the ethical implications of reviving lost creatures? Are we correcting past mistakes? Or are we crossing a line that was never meant to be crossed? For some, de-extinction is a moral responsibility. Humans have driven countless species to extinction through hunting, habitat destruction, and climate change. But others warn that nature is not a laboratory experiment. Extinction is part of the evolutionary cycle, a force that has shaped life for billions of years. What happens when we try to override it? Cloning and genetic engineering don't create perfect replicas. They create approximations, hybrids that may struggle to survive in the modern world. A resurrected mammoth may look like its ancient ancestors, but it would be raised by elephants in a landscape vastly different from the ice age it once knew. Would it truly belong anywhere? There's also the question of suffering. A cloned Pyrenean ibex was briefly brought back from extinction, only to die within minutes due to lung defects. If de-extinction efforts result in short-lived, unhealthy creatures, are we reviving species or simply creating experiments doomed to fail? And what about surrogate mothers? Modern animals used to carry and birth these resurrected species. An elephant carrying a mammoth embryo would undergo a pregnancy for a species it was never meant to give birth to. How do we weigh the ethical cost? Some of the most controversial discussions go even further. If we can bring back a woolly mammoth, what about something closer to us? Neanderthals, for example, share 99.7% of their DNA with modern humans. Could science one day restore an extinct branch of humanity? And if so, what would be their place in society? Would they have rights? Would they be considered human at all? Every step toward de-extinction forces us to confront profound ethical dilemmas. Are we undoing past destruction? Or are we interfering with forces beyond our control? Even if we have the ability to bring a species back, how will it live in a world that has already moved on? And more importantly, do we have the wisdom to decide? If a species is brought back to life, the world that once supported the woolly mammoth, the dodo, or the saber-toothed cat, no longer exists. Ecosystems have shifted, climates have changed, and entire landscapes have been reshaped by human expansion. Even if we succeed in reviving extinct creatures, we must ask, where will they go? Some argue that de-extinction could be a powerful tool for restoring lost ecosystems. The Woolly Mammoth Project, for example, is not just about reviving a species, it's about reviving an environment. Scientists believe that reintroducing mammoth-like creatures to the Arctic could help restore the tundra's balance, preventing permafrost from melting and slowing climate change. If a resurrected species can serve a greater ecological purpose, does that justify its return? But ecosystems are fragile, intricate networks where every species plays a role. Introducing an animal that has been absent for thousands of years carries risks. What happens if a revived predator disrupts modern food chains? If a cloned herbivore outcompetes native species for resources? We have seen the unintended consequences. Rabbits in Australia, cane toads in South America, invasive fish in freshwater lakes. Each time, the results were unpredictable and in many cases disastrous. Would de-extinction lead to the same mistakes on an even greater scale? Beyond ecological concerns, there's another issue: captivity. Many of these revived species would not be reintroduced into the wild at all. Instead, they might live in zoos, labs, or controlled reserves, novelties of science, preserved more for human fascination than for nature's benefit. Would these animals ever experience true survival? Or would they exist only as genetic replicas, confined to artificial environments? If a species is brought back, but never truly free, is it truly alive? Then there is the issue of sustainability. Reviving a species is one thing. Ensuring its survival is another. A single cloned animal is not enough. An entire population must be created, with enough genetic diversity to prevent inbreeding and disease. Without a self-sustaining population, de-extinction efforts could amount to nothing more than temporary displays, spectacles of scientific progress that ultimately lead nowhere. And so, the question remains, if we bring them back, how do we ensure they don't disappear again? Are we prepared to commit to their survival, or are we simply repeating the cycle of extinction, this time by our own design? The power to reverse extinction is no longer just a concept of science fiction. It is becoming a reality. But as the lines between life, death, and scientific intervention blur, we are left to confront a deeper truth. De-extinction is not just about biology or technology. It is about our relationship with nature, with history, and with the consequences of our own actions. In many ways, the ability to bring back lost species forces us to reflect on the choices we make today. If we have the means to revive what was lost, shouldn't we also focus on protecting what still remains? Right now, thousands of species are on the brink of extinction, not in some distant past, but in our own time. Elephants, tigers, coral reefs, entire ecosystems are vanishing. Are we so fascinated by the idea of resurrecting the past that we are ignoring the crisis unfolding in front of us? There is also the question of control. Once we bring a species back, who decides its fate? Will these creatures exist for the benefit of science, for conservation, or for something else entirely? And then, there is the ultimate question. What does it mean to truly bring something back? Is an engineered mammoth a mammoth, or merely an imitation? If we recreate a species in a world it no longer belongs to, are we preserving life, or merely creating echoes of the past? Perhaps, in the end, de-extinction is less about reviving the creatures we have lost, and more about confronting the world we are shaping. If we have the power to resurrect life, we also have the power to protect it. But the real test of our wisdom is not in what we can bring back. It is in what we choose to save. This video has come to an end, but the discovery continues. Check out more content on the channel and subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Thank you for watching.